Why don't we get started, just because I know people are on a time frame. And I just want to welcome everyone to the inaugural kickoff session of our Splinters. And Splinters is going to be designed to be a roundtable discussion that we're holding once a month. A lot of the board members felt that because we're not able to attend trade shows or meetings, that we're missing an opportunity just to interact with our peers. I think it's important that we do this. Couple of housekeeping details: that this call will be recorded, so that if you want to come back and review it later on, or you want to share with everyone, that you'll be able to, just if you're interested, just contact Michelle at the office here, which is michelle@wpma.org, and she'll send you the link on where the information is. The call is going to end promptly at 10 o'clock. We're going to shut the call right off. If people are still talking, I'm sorry, but we have to respect everyone's time frames for what they need to do. Just two other brief notes: that there's no agenda for today's session. We've got a couple of things. We've been fortunate to have a couple people that have some information they'd like to share with us. And again, please don't walk over everyone. Let people finish. It works very, very well. And it's just going to be, there's no requirements for anybody to do anything. So if we could just start, I'd be be nice, Chris, if you could just begin and just introduce yourself so everybody knows who's on the call with yourself.
My name is Chris Castano. I'm in charge of sales and marketing at a company called the Maine Woods Company in Northern Maine, hardwood sawmill.
Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andy Jeffrey. I'm CEO of Forest Corporation. We 3D print interior design products from sawdust.
Sandra Ann.
Hi, just make sure, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm Sandra Ann Bean, and I'm from JM Shampoo. We're a sawmill and have a secondary transformation plant where we do dowels and molded squares and various hardwood species.
Dewey.
Yeah, Dewey Bunker, HDI, Hardwoods Distribution, Inc. I specialize in sales of import plywood from both Southeast Asia and from Russia.
Bob.
Morning, I'm Bob Thompson with Thompson Forest Products, and we provide primarily hardwood components and other components to the industry.
Terry, go ahead, Terry.
Hi, Terry Martin, Keystone Wood Specialties. We specialize in providing doors, door boxes, door fronts for the kitchen industry. And I do purchasing and design work here.
All right, thank you. Grant.
Hello, I'm Grant Caldwell. I'm Vice President of Millwork One. We're a large commercial millwork shop here in New England. We're located in Rhode Island.
All right, thank you. And we've got Chris Moore from Graff Brothers, who said he's going to try to join us this morning also. And before we get going, you can't hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I'm Chris Moore with Graff Brothers. We are a large white oak sawmill specializing in rift and quartered 4 and 5 quarter white oak, and we also have engineered and solid flooring lines as well.
All right, thank you. I guess I'd like to begin by just sharing that the reason we picked this topic as the board of directors is because I think down the road that there's a lot of information that people need to be aware of as far as raw materials go. Cost, availability, different things like that. And I know Sandra Ann's going to touch on this, but from the Weekly Hard Review, I pulled out one contact in the Northeast said that some loggers are only working long enough to fill this week's quota for chips. Because of these shortages, many sawmills reported backlogs of lumber orders extending several weeks and through the first quarter of 2021. So that just proves to us that even though we use lumber as our raw material for the wood products industry, that a lot of our raw materials are intertwined with different things, whether it's chips, political, getting into the woods, COVID is affecting people. So at that, I'd like to turn the meeting over to anyone who'd like to share any information they have, and just we'll kick the roundtable off that way.
Hey, Chris, I would be curious to hear your take on availability of logs and white oak specifically. That seems to be a tough one right now.
Well, the good thing is that's the only thing we buy, and that's also the bad thing. So, and we at Graff Brothers, we buy a particular log, so we buy a higher end log than just the average saw log. It's a major issue right now. It's not just, it was just mainly the stave market was our biggest competitors. Now the export market has come back into play. And right now, being it is winter, a lot of veneer logs are being exported to various different countries. We can't just say China any longer. So it's going to China, Vietnam, Malaysia, all over. So which has really driven the cost of the log up. They are willing to pay exorbitant amounts of money just for the fiber. So and they're taking down to really a two-sided log, and some are even taking less than that. But it's normally a two-sided log and up. But it put a really large constraint on availability of logs. Not to mention, it being winter, there's a lot of people that are fighting COVID and all the regulations with COVID, and having trouble getting employees and maintaining employees because of COVID, because of the unemployment. Is that going to change in Q1 with Biden coming into office? Probably not. So it is a major battle. So like us and like many others are expanded our net. So we are going further and further out, adding log yards, remote log yards, to make it easier to get materials. And but it is, as you see, in those of you that get the hardwood market report and review, every week white oak continues to rise, as do most other species as well, on the kiln dried side. So and right now, 8-quarter is a big exported item. So there's a lot of people that are trying to fill 8-quarter items, which will go away here in about another month or so because of the weather, because a lot of that is an air dry or a shipping dry type product. So, yeah, it's tough right now. It really is. Is business good? Otherwise, yes, business is good for a lot of people. But the raw material cost, I think we're going to continue to see increases as we go into Q1 and Q2 of 2021. So,
Andrea, did you have some information you want to share?
Yeah, I just maybe wanted to add on to what Chris just said. I've had some comments from people within our organization in terms of the pricing. If you compare pricing from October till now, whereas you were talking about maybe, $20, $25 per thousand in price increases, we're talking, 25, 30% and even more now in terms of price increases. And I agree with Chris that the feeling is that it's going to go into Q1, Q2. I think it's a combination of factors too. I think, COVID made it so that everything's kind of pushed off and everybody's working to kind of get caught up with the backlog. Everybody being at home has increased demand significantly. And although we do have a sawmill, we see it on our component side too. It's created what we thought was going to be a superficial demand in certain kinds of products. And it seems to be not a temporary thing, but and not necessarily a trend. It seems to be going on longer than what we thought it was going to go on. Now we're going in our second phase of COVID, so it'll be interesting to see in 2021 how things are going to be. I think also the fact that the COVID effect with the construction has made it that the prices on the softwood skyrocketed so much that in terms of loggers and what's profitable to go out and cut on your property has been the softwood. That's kind of maybe part of the dynamic of what we're seeing in the hardwood pricing as well. We're going to be seeing that we're going to have to be forking out some more money to pay for the logs going forward in the coming months, I think.
Anyone else have a question before we continue?
Sandra, does your log team feel like that will be a temporary price increase that you'll need to offer to get the logs, or do they think once it's paid, it'll stay there?
It's for sure that, we're having to increase the cost to get the logs. There is a shortage of supply, and it's just, it's a supply and demand, so the prices are increasing. It's hard to say what's going to happen. We expect it to maybe to go on for the next couple of months, the winter months. Once spring rolls around, I don't really know what the feeling is. Will things start to get adjusted back up again? It's hard to say.
Bob, what are you saying?
Well, certainly prices are going up, and we've done a fair amount of business in ash over the years. And of course, with the emerald ash borer, that's creating an issue. Certain parts of the country can no longer get ash that's viable for sawing. And even walking around my neighborhood, we have ash trees here, and you can see the effects of the emerald ash borer here. So I've heard that there'll be places in the Northeast that ash will be available for a number of years yet. And, who knows what that number is, but also I hear that the logs are getting smaller that are coming in. And I guess I've also heard that stated as far as maple, hard maple in certain areas, that because of the demand for the higher grade logs, then just a normal sawmill is getting in smaller logs. Chris might know more about that, or if they see that or not.
Well, like I said earlier, we only procure and manufacture white oak logs, so we don't really see that much in any other species. I mean, we do purchase some for gate logs, but we resell those. But in the white oak side of the business, the smaller logs that are typically the log that we would buy would be typically taken by a stave mill prior to us even seeing it. So, because they like that 14 to 18 inch clean log for stave. So they're the ones that can pay a better dollar for that. In our world, we really like that 18 to 28 inch log and bigger if we can get it that's clean. So it's a real issue of getting what you need right now. There's just so much competition. And I mean, this is the first time I've seen if in the HMR that FAS white oak prices are up 4 through 8 quarter. Virtually almost every species is up. Poplar's up, walnut's up, soft maple, hard maple, cherry, ash is up, as you mentioned just a minute ago, but it's just the FAS products on some of these. But the maples, it's across the board. It's 2 and better, really almost all thicknesses. So I think the renovation market and the housing market through COVID has really put a strain on a lot of the resources, and I think a lot of the manufacturers and small sawmills got out of it because of COVID, whether it be labor issues or just didn't feel safe, and some of them have closed. So there's less people harvesting, there's less green material on the marketplace. It's going to be interesting as we go forward. Not trying to paint a gloomy picture by no means, because I think the market is robust, but the resource is definitely tight.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Chris. I mean, we're hearing from a lot of sawmills now that demand is robust, and we're looking for things, and we're hearing that production is down. Not only is the log supply down, but production is down. They're battling COVID, they're battling quarantines, so limited hours, limited shifts, and things like that. And we're hearing from the mills that we're able to get good supply from, that they're hearing from people that they haven't heard from in years, who are having trouble with their own sawmills and vendors now. So there's definitely a lot of people out there scouring the market trying to find product.
Chris Castano, what do you guys see up in Maine? Because you guys have your own timberlands up there as well, so.
We have 1 million acres of our own timberland, but we still have to rely on some outside sources. So to talk about what, when a species gets hot, obviously, like hard maple is right now, we start to see smaller and smaller logs, come into the mill, typically stuff that would have been left in the woods and passed by. But now all of a sudden, everybody knows that they can make a little money on it. So it's kind of sad to see some of these small logs come in, but they do. I can certainly tell you, what Tom was just talking about. We are typically a 15 million board foot a year mill. Last year, I think we're going to average around 9 to 10 million, and it was purely a function of lack of logs. So it's been a real frustration for us, and don't know really what's going to happen in 2021.
Chris, what happens? You just said that you're usually typically a 15 million foot mill, and say you came up with 10 or 12. What happens to those 3 or 4 million feet that you come up short? How do you explain to customers that you've been working from on a regular basis? Guys, I know that we've been shipping you 2 loads of Face and Better a month, and now I don't only ship you 1 every other month. How's that
luckily
going?
for us. Yeah, I mean, what I was just, doing to you, just kind of explaining the situation. You have to answer why. But I think the nice thing about it is everybody's in the same boat. So they're not just hearing it from us, they're hearing it from everybody. So, misery loves company. And when I'm not the only one telling everybody that we're going to fall down on our shipments, they kind of know what's going on. So that's made it easier, but certainly there's a lot of, anguish, because we were supposed to have X amount of loads and we're not. We're falling far short.
That's exactly right. And a lot of that when COVID first came out, and, we first started hearing about it back in March, a lot of distribution yards. Prior to that, the red oak market was so soft. So a lot of distribution yards that were acting as concentration yards or concentration yards that sold to distribution yards were changing their purchasing patterns because they were no longer putting a lot of green material on their yard because they didn't know what the outcome 2, 3, 6 months from then was going to be. So they let their air dry yards go way down. Therefore, a lot of them weren't turning, half or a third through their kilns, what they normally would have been turning through their kilns. And that caused some sawmills and loggers to I guess, cut back their production. And now that everything's starting to ramp back up again, you just don't have that supply chain any longer to fill some of those back up. And that becomes an issue. So
there's no question, Chris, we did that. We did just what you're talking. We pulled back in the spring because we didn't know what was going to happen. And there's definitely a whiplash effect happening on that, where we pulled back and now we desperately need the volume, and we're finding that it's not there.
And are you finding that they're pushing you to take some grades that maybe you wouldn't have taken before because?
So in years past, we've seen a lot of that, and we haven't seen that this time around. As we've gone through different cycles over the years, that's definitely been something that's happened, but not right now. As a matter of fact, we're actually hearing that there's so much demand overseas for the low grades that they're pushing it overseas right now.
And you all realize that I strongly feel this, and I don't know it for a fact, but I strongly feel this, that now that we have Biden coming into the office, and I think he is, and somebody's going to be really elated about this, but I think he is going to wipe away all the restrictions going to China that were there and make it much, much easier to import and export for both of us from China and us. And I just think that the demand then therefore will be even greater for a lot of things going abroad. So what does that do to us? That puts even more strain on the already strained resource that we have. So,
Louis, could you share a little bit of what you told me yesterday was what's happening with the Russian plywood market? Because I talked to a couple of our members and they agree with you 100%. but that's something I think people need to know what's going to happen as far as birch plywood goes down the road.
Yeah, winter in Russia right now is soft. Most of the mills have low log decks. They require a lot of the rivers, lakes and streams to freeze solid in the Siberian region before they can get their logs out because they have no logging roads there. They require these waterways to transport most of the raw material down to the mills. Do the mills have local regions around the mills to buy logs? Yeah, they do, but the quality of the log isn't as good as what they're getting up in the north. Typically this time of year in January, mid-January, we can still place orders with most of our Russian mills for February production. Today, I just got an email from our buyer in Russia. He was able to get me 5 containers out of a mill for March production at an 8% increase over last month's production. And that's rare. Most of the mills are in April production right now, which means our customers aren't going to see material until in June, probably, of that product line. Oh, you know, a lot of my customers are smaller factories. They're not large producers that have the staff to look at and the backlog to look at and say, we can schedule out till June. So I have to go to my customers and say, hey, I'm really sorry, but if you don't really look at the crystal ball and give me some idea what you need for June, I can't guarantee I'm going to have it here, because we don't buy on speculation. We buy on order for our customers. So I'm buying futures for every customer that I have. And right now we are in seriously April production. We won't see that product until June.
I hate to say it, but not one of us has painted a rosy picture for the resource.
Well, a couple of things are going on in Russia. The biggest issue is the winter is bad. 2 is once COVID hit, all these major mills cut production way back. Sfeza is the largest producer of white birch plywood in Russia with 7 factories. They are down 15% for their 4x8 mills, and they are down 25% for their 5x5 mills. They have just cut production way back, and they have no intention on bringing it back. COVID, from what we know and what I hear over there, is running rampant through the factories. Some factories have got 30% less people working for them due to COVID. You're not going to see it in obviously in the press, because Russia's really not reporting accurate numbers with COVID. But what we hear on the ground is it is making a big difference in Europe.
Well, Dewey, do you think with the new administration coming in that there's going to put more restrictions on Russia and make it more difficult to import products from Russia?
I don't know that. I know Putin has put a moratorium on exporting Russian logs out of Siberia into China and Vietnam. He really wants to keep raw material in his country. I also know there is a EU trade case similar to the trade case that was going on with US and China on birch plywood. The EU feels that Russia has been dumping white birch plywood into the market at below manufactured costs. So the other nations in the EU, Finland, Latvia, Estonia, that produce a high-end birch product line are complaining about it. I don't know where that case stands. I know what it has done is created a vacuum in Russia, meaning that the European Union buying process has been basically the guys are going, hey, we probably ought to buy and stock a little bit more plywood than we normally do because we don't want to end up paying an extra duty. And that's the same in the United States. They have seen more exporting of material out of Russia into the US in the last few months, which doesn't help to lead time with the lead time issue. You know, we're just seeing longer and longer lead times with this product. And the same is really going on over in Vietnam. You know, we do a large amount of importing out of Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, and those areas for a white birch panel. Raw material coming out of China being peeled there for veneers is a little bit of an issue. As Chris reported, you know, logs being sent over there and being peeled for numerous product lines. But our biggest issue right now is transportation. If you don't have a contract with a steamship line coming out of Southeast Asia, you're paying upwards to $8,500 for a container to come to the East Coast. And it's okay when you fill in that container full of computer chips. You know, you got 500,000 computer chips. You can amortize that extra freight over 500,000 items. But when you got a container loaded with 1,200 sheets of plywood, and your normal rate is $3,400 to get that container here, and now you're asked to increase your price to $8,500, it makes a big difference. It really does. So, you know, are we passing it on to the customer? Absolutely. Our margins are not there to absorb that type of price increase. But we have open discussions with our customers before we even do it. Go to them and say, hey, look, where are you at? What can you do? Do you want to pay a premium to get it here? Or do you want to wait for the market to calm down? And right now, we don't see it coming down and through Q. We really don't.
Dewey, how about what you told me yesterday about some of the mills, and Tom had mentioned it, that they were backing off on their inventories because they didn't know what was going to happen. And now, then all of a sudden, they contact you and say, I need so many containers in the first or second quarter of this year, and you're telling them that it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Without
I mean,
mentioning any names, can you just?
yeah, no, that was
what's
it's a big furniture manufacturer in the Carolinas that usually orders, between 150, 120, 150 loads per quarter of Russian birch plywood. And they didn't order anything since the first quarter of last year. They had all kinds of pipeline. COVID hit. I'm assuming, I don't have a direct contact with them. I'm dealing with another gentleman. I'm assuming COVID hurt their customer. COVID hurt them for sure. Production went way down. My customer ended up starting to stick product line in warehouse in Q1 for them. He's still sitting on it now. Once COVID hit, they came to him and said, your terms now are 90 days. Typically they're 30. Now their COVID is here. We're asking for 90-day terms, and he's still sitting on that material a year later. Now they're coming to us and saying, hey, we want material in Q2 of this year. We're going to put an RFQ out for Q2. We basically said it's impossible. We cannot supply you any Russian birch material for Q2. Just none of the mills are going to accept it. None of the mills are even going to quote it. They don't have capacity. They are sold out. They are sold out in that product.
Oh.
Chris, did you have a question?
No.
Well,
no,
I was just
on my computer.
Oh, sorry. I was going to make a comment about transportation. Dewey mentioned transportation costs coming into the U.S. Transportation costs going out of the U.S. is also increased for those of you that export anything. It's definitely increased, but transportation domestically has, and I don't know if everybody's seen this or it just happens to be our location where we are in South Shore, Kentucky, right above the river. Or right below the river, I should say. But anyway, freight rates, domestic freight rates are just ridiculous right now. Even if you can find a truck, they vary anywhere from $3,000 to $1,000 depending on the lane that you're looking at. So of an increase that what we're seeing. Has anybody else seen that, or anybody else have any ideas about how to combat that?
Oh, we're
No, we're
seeing
seeing
it
the
for sure.
same thing.
It makes it extremely difficult when you, especially if you have repeat customers, and 1 week you're at say $2,500, and the next load that you need to ship is at $3,200 or something, and it's the supplier can't eat it, and the consumer doesn't want to eat it, so it's just a real problem.
Well, Chris, what we've been doing is we've been going to customers and taking price increases, but we've also been promising customers that if the prices go down, because I'll order 3 or 4 months worth of material at a time from our supplier at a fixed rate, and that rate obviously has a container cost and an inland shipping cost. If I'll pad the container cost a little bit to anticipate an increase coming in the next couple of weeks or a month or so. And I tell my customer, if it goes above X amount of dollars, I'm going to come back to you and ask you for a potential price increase for the difference. If it goes below that, I'm going to give it back to you. I'm just going to give it back. We don't anticipate making margin on freight. It is convenience that we offer our customer to provide that service, but we're not making margin on the freight. And
no, we're the very same way. We don't charge extra for freight either, but it's just finding it. I think your product is probably more scheduled than ours is. Ours is when the product is ready. We make arrangements to ship it versus yours is probably in a warehouse,
Correct. Correct.
prearranged, and I'm going to ship 2 this week, 3 next week, or whatever the case is to the manufacturer. So, and I do understand that, but it's still difficult nonetheless. I'm not saying yours is any less difficult.
Oh, no.
It's just really frustrating by far to get these, you used to be $50 to $100 difference, and then we'd be squabbling over that. But now it's, especially at the end of the month, we get quoted sometimes $1,000 over the normal rate.
We have certain lanes, Chris,
crazy.
that are solid, that are still being maintained at what we were quoted 6 months ago. Now, there's other lanes that we ship out of predominantly Savannah, New Jersey. For me going into Wisconsin right now, it's crazy. I got a quote for a load on the beginning of January, the first day back, which was what, the 2nd or 3rd. It was $750 more to get that load out of Savannah up to the customer than what I was quoted just a month ago. And we can't absorb it. We can't eat it, so.
Yeah, and there's no reason for it. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
One thing that we do have available that may help or may not is we have a Blackbird Logistics, and I spoke to him yesterday, and he's our trucking provider. He does flatbeds and containers, and he's looking for additional business, and he just wants a chance to quote. I'll give you this guy's name and number. He's been to the meeting in Savannah, but he's available to all members. His name is Shadi, C-H-A-D-I, and it's with a company called Blackbird Logistics. His phone number is 248-594-7447, and his extension is 1001. So it's 248-594-7447, extension 1001, and his name is Shadi, C-H-A-D-I. And he said, look, he runs flats, and some of our members are using their services, and they are saving money. So it's an opportunity that if it gives you a chance to try to dig out some freight, it can help you, maybe. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I was curious, Terry, what kind of constraints are you seeing on raw materials, if any?
Mostly in the maples. Seen some slower deliveries in the soft and hard maples. We do a lot of paint grade soft maple product. We've also seen increases in demand in walnut for our product. White oak, rift sawn, quarter sawn seems to be strong. Haven't really had too much of a problem. Issues in veneer availabilities. We've seen some of the plywoods not as available as they once were. MDF, we do a lot of painted MDF, and that's been somewhat difficult. We've overcome some of the shortages, but it's been a little bit difficult. Transportation, we've actually expanded our own delivery capabilities. A year ago, we had one small truck on the road, not a dedicated driver. Now we have 4 dedicated drivers and 4 trucks on the road full time. We've gone we're in Southeast Pennsylvania, Lancaster County. So we're not far from Philadelphia, Baltimore, not really far from New York. So we've actually gone from probably within 50 miles. Now we're going down below DC on our deliveries. And it's really has helped our customers. They've really been appreciative of that because of the transportation costs. We're able to give them a better transportation cost for the flat goods. And it's really helped our business. We've seen new customers come on board, and they're really excited about offering that in-person delivery. It doesn't help our customers on the West Coast. We had one customer yesterday really complaining about increased costs, but again, we're not upcharging shipping costs. We're just passing along what we're being charged, and we tell them this is what the industry is going to right now. It just costs more, and we hate to see that those West Coast customers try to find somebody else closer, but again, we're not making a margin on the shipping. So we've been able to help local customers, and by increasing our delivery range, that certainly has helped that. But still the long distance shipping is still an issue. But our business is strong. We were shut down all of 3 days last March due to COVID. We were able to open back up with an exemption, and realistically, our businesses remain fairly strong. We were pretty impressed with what actually our customers were able to do during the COVID last year. So our business demand is strong. So it's a matter of being able to find people. Labor is an issue. Really haven't had a lot of people drop out for COVID related issues, but it's hard to find new hire right now. It's just there's so much in our area competing for that labor market. And right now, really in the Lancaster County area, if you don't have a job, you're not looking real hard. There's a lot of help wanted signs out in different industries. So we've improved our hire package, trying to find the quality employees, but that remains an issue for us. So, there's just a number of factors that we're dealing with, but we're making do. One question that I had with the new administration, I know their big platform is environmental. How is that going to affect the logging industry? Has anybody heard anything? What's coming down the line? What to expect as far as new environmental restrictions on logging?
I have not heard anything. I just know some of the, if any governors got turned over and went Democratic, sometimes that really puts a constraint on logging. Typically, the Republican Party is definitely more pro logging and business than, so it could tighten everything up. I just don't know, but are there going to be dust restrictions, more boiler restrictions, all those things that help the growth of our industry? Those all could be changes going forward that really could tighten up and make it more expensive for all of our industry to grow or expand. So,
Well, I think it's their
you guys
goal.
do a lot. Bob, you guys do an awful lot. What are you guys seeing as far as raw materials and people go, availability?
Around North Carolina,
Yes.
there are plenty of jobs around here, in any industry, kind of like Terry said, plenty of help wanted signs out. As far as logs in North Carolina, I think mills are doing okay. We have a lot of poplar in North Carolina. We have red oak, we have gum, we have a little bit of ash, and then some of the other species, white oak and hickory down here, but we don't have a soft maple, wormy maple. We don't have an abundance of the maples like you guys have in the Northeast. But yeah, mills are hurting for employees, and factories are as well.
All right, thank you. Dewey.
No, I was just going to say, if the administration is true to its word, they're going to probably enter the Paris Accord again. And I think they'll also probably turn back a lot of the Trump administration's deregulations that he put forward. And I think that just puts a lot of pressure on factories and mills, particularly to more red tape, and the more red tape they have, the worse it gets. And I just think that's going to be a factor. I don't think it's going to go away.
Grant, are you experiencing any problems? Grant Caldwell, you guys have any problems that you're seeing as far as raw materials go?
Not yet, but based on the feedback we're getting from our suppliers, there's a lot of hysteria that people are afraid that we're going to see some large increases. That's why I'm here today. one of our main suppliers suggested sitting in on the meeting because we have so many large projects. We're one of the largest shops in the Northeast, in New England, rather. We, we're just afraid that some of these large projects that we've had quoted for over a year, some before COVID, we'll see, major increases. We don't really have a leg to stand on if there are major increases. So there's nothing we can really do other than maybe try to price in potential escalation into our bids these days. But it's very difficult because the market is even more competitive than it was before. We are cutting our prices down as low as we can possibly get to win work. And then simultaneously, we have the potential of large increase in prices coming our way on the other side. So, we're right there in the middle. We need to win work, to stay in business, of course. But at the same time, we don't want to have, $1 million worth of wood on a project go up 10%. So it's a tightrope that we walk these days. We're currently not pricing in any escalation. So we are just going with our fingers crossed. But from the sounds of this, it does look like there will be additional price increases in 2021.
Can I ask you a dumb question?
Sure.
How long, if you put in a bid last year, how long is your company expected to hold prices? Because Chris and everyone said prices are going up, and I don't know how you can, if you cut your price so tight to get the business, and then you expected to hold the prices that you quoted on lumber from last year, you're going to get killed.
It's very difficult. Some of these projects that we bid, we do have an opportunity in rounds of pricing to increase our price if necessary. But usually when we get to the stage of the best and final round, we're, expected to reduce our price, if anything. And not just lumber, there's other products that we use in buyout items. A lot of the big acoustical wall panel packages can be in the multi-millions on a project. And they only hold their price for 30 days. So we're always in jeopardy of having a major price increase. Even before there was COVID, if we bid a job and win it 8 months or 9 months after our bid went in and our vendors only hold their price for 30 days, we're always in that position. So yeah, it's not an easy place to be, but it's a very thin line between cutting our price to be as aggressive as possible to win the work and then protecting ourselves from major price increases. So I would say anything less than 10%, we have to just live with. If it was more than 10%, we would probably raise our hand at the time of award and request an opportunity to look at our price again.
Okay, good, thank you. Right.
Hey, Grant.
Yes.
So do you have a strong feeling that the large commercial work will be strong in 2021? Or I know a lot of projects were on, but never got started because of COVID.
Yeah, so there's a couple factors. Obviously, a lot of the obvious, the hotel work, the restaurant and retail work are all going to take a major hit. When you get into the office space, which is a lot of our work, a lot of big companies. We work in Boston primarily. A lot of big companies. Will come in and occupy a 30-something floor building, and there's a $10 million millwork package on it. We're not sure what's going to happen there. But then the other sectors, healthcare, public schools, university work are all still moving forward, even projects that got put on hold during COVID. What I'm expecting is that developers will try to take advantage of a buyer's market because we're all afraid of COVID and because the marketplace shrunk a little bit. There's more competition. Everybody's getting more aggressive. We're cutting our prices. And so for a short period of time before the large price increases hit, we're all, providing a much lower price. I've seen projects that we were awarded and under contract get put on hold, canceled, and then come back out to bid. And we had to compete again. And we cut our price, by 10% to try to compete with the new market. So I think developers will try to take advantage of that. So for a short period of time, there'll be a buyer's market, and then the price increases will come, and then the larger, the Canadian companies and the the companies that have come in, national companies, will probably leave the market because there's no money to be made, and all the smaller companies that cut their prices to stay in business will probably struggle financially, and they'll go away. So it'll no longer be a buyer's market, and the market will be saturated, and we'll be back to where we were again. But I don't know how long that cycle will take. I would guess at least 3 years before we're back in that realm again. So,
Jeez.
but that's, again, I'm not an economist. I'm a mill worker. So that's what I've heard. That's what I'm seeing across the board.
I think one other thing that I keep hearing is that under the Biden administration, we'll have a weak dollar, and that'll have different impact. If that's true, that'll have different impacts for different industries and exporters, importers, and the like.
Just
I
so
would
you
think
know-
that would take a little while, though.
Right.
Just so you'll know, we did have a link in this email inviting everyone to the session from Scholar Ave and Presser, the law firm they said these are some things that businesses could expect under a Biden administration. So these aren't coming from WPMA, it's coming from the law firm, and they've got some concrete evidence that they're quoting the information from. So you might want to take a look at it later on if it'll help your business. Just to give you an idea. Does anyone else have anything else that they'd like to share? We have some more time, but we don't have to use the whole time if you don't want to. One of the questions that I'd like to find out is, because you're the people that are taking our first session with this, what could we use for the topic for the second session next month that you or your company might be interested in? What can you think of? Tom?
Oh, great question. I mean, we covered a lot today. I think moving forward with the demand questions and the supply questions, that's the biggest part of my concern. Moving forward, and whether the sawmills are going to be able to keep up with demand, because I'm afraid we're just going to lose when we have the opportunity to win. Beyond that, I don't have anything specific for the next round.
All right. Chris Castano, anything that you think that you or another member might be interested in hearing about?
Well, I think our biggest issue right now is this employee situation or lack of. So I know it's something we've been dealing with for many years, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, but boy, if there was any solution or any way to solve this issue, I think that would be a huge help. That may be something that would be interesting to a lot of people, because I think everybody's experiencing, not just our industry, but others.
Andrew, anything that you can see, because you're a startup business, so what would you be seeing?
Yeah, well, so our big thing is sustainability. So we're, taking sawdust, then using 3D printers, and we're developing industrial scale 3D printers to turn sawdust back into products. And acoustic panels is one of the big things we can, we've got some very interesting technology on a design side to be able to directly make acoustic panels from sawdust. I think technology, changing technology in the wood industry is of interest to me. I'd like to know what the latest technology is for sawmills. Are there new types of saws? Are you using lasers? What's going on in that area? Shipping and transport costs are a big issue for us. And that, in fact, shipping of sawdust is probably our single biggest cost in getting our raw materials. And also value added on sawdust. Who's doing value added to generate specific sawdust products in particle size ranges, blends of different wood types, the amount of fiber versus the amount of dust. All of these things are really important to us if we're going to develop our business and, generate products and, create new markets for our products. So, kind of a technology and sustainability thrust I would be really interested in.
Okay, good. Sandra Ann.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you just made is automation and technology, roundtable maybe with some participants who might have examples of kinds of things that they've put and implemented in their companies that could be, good ideas, and giving ideas to some other companies on how they can change the way they do things. I think that would be interesting.
Okay, good. Chris Moore.
I think more of the same, actually, more of the same things we talked about today. As 2021 rolls out, I think we're all going to have the same questions going forward: is what's this administration going to do to us? How is the market changing? How is the rebound from COVID affecting the industry? All those things.
Okay, Bob Thompson.
I don't have a strong feel, but I think this has been helpful today.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Who did I miss?
Me.
Dewey, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, I kind of agree with Chris Moore. Mine's more social. I mean, what is the future of COVID? What is the future of the vaccination? What is the future of us getting back to normal so that we can run our businesses on a normal way? Are we gonna continue to work remotely for the rest of our lives? I mean, how is this all affecting our business? And I know employees, my neighbors that work for IDEX. IDEX Labs here in Westbrook built this multi-billion-dollar facility, and it's empty. How is that affecting the economy? How is that affecting business? How is that affecting future millwork packages in the industry? So I guess mine's more socially. When are we going to get over COVID? When is the vaccination going to get to be, administered to everybody? And is everybody going to take it? I'm not traveling. I'm not seeing any customers because I've been grounded by my employer. They basically said, you're not traveling anywhere. I want to get back out and see customers. Are my customers going to be willing to see me, and under what conditions? So I guess mine's more socially.
Well, tying in with that, I can agree with that, Dewey, because a lot of people are telling me that, that salespeople, need to get out and visit with their customers. That in our industry, so much as a relation, it's based on a face-to-face relationship.
Yeah.
It's not on a cheap price over an email, but it's long-term. And that until that happens, and some of the speakers, big speakers that are saying, is the sales force dead? And I said to the guy the other day, I said, no, they're not. I said, you're not going to spend $250,000 on a machine from Weineck because you save $10 on over something for styles, and then have no one that can help you through the whole process with a piece of equipment. It's that relationship you develop with a person.
Well, as Zoom becomes normal now, I mean, is a normal method for sales calls today? Our budget's going to be slashed by companies like HDI, like Hardwoods, on travel. Is Zoom going to be the norm? I don't know.
I hope not.
I mean, I've only used Zoom a few times and other means of conference calls with customers. Have I gotten by? Yeah. Have I grown the business? Yeah. But I don't know what the norm is anymore. I don't know what the norm is going to be after COVID. And I'm just kind of curious to see what happens.
I still see it's just like all the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, one comment on that. It was a small company. Zoom has really lowered the barriers of getting in touch with people because, almost everyone is sitting at home and almost everyone has 15 minutes to talk to you. And it's been, for us, COVID kind of didn't really have much of an effect because all of our technology is automated. We have CAD designers designing products remotely. Everything's done on the internet. We can run our machines remotely. I know when they're working and when they're stopped. I can even start one up remotely if I want to. I think it's a new world, and I think we've got to, offices are not going to exist the way they used to. And I think we have to start thinking that way.
Is there anything else that anyone else would like to share?
Thank you all very much. This is Grant Caldwell again from Millwork One. Thank you all for letting me sit in on this call. I appreciate it. It was very helpful.
All right, thank you, everyone. Okay, then I guess we can call it and wrap the first Splinter session up. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out of your day to participate. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.